Hello and welcome to another edition of the Transportation Exchange podcast presented by Rush Truck Centers of Canada. I'm your host, Jason Cuddy, and welcoming back with us today is Mike Millian, the president of the PMTC. Mike, welcome back to the podcast.
Morning, Jason. Thanks for having me.
So it's becoming basically an annual event, I think, having you on. But I think there's been so much going on, and for what you guys do as an organization for the industry in Canada, I think it's important to get you on, kind of update everyone of what's been happening with yourselves plus the industry in general. So thought we'd dive in because you've got a big event coming up, which is kind of the key to what you guys do, which is your conference. Maybe give us a little bit of an overview of what to expect this year.
Yeah, for sure. Our biggest event of the year by far is our annual conference. This year's June 18th to 20th in Niagara Falls, Ontario. Happy to say moving back to Niagara Falls. We were in Hamilton last year, and the content and stuff went good, but the feedback from our sponsors and our guests was they wanted to move back to the Niagara area, so that's what we did. We're in the convention center this year, a little bigger venue. Planning's going well. We have 55 exhibitors booked, which is a sellout. That was sold out the end of February.
Nice.
74 sponsors overall, which is a new record, so we're appreciative of that support. We're at about a 50% sellout right now. We have 150 registered, which is tracking about where we were last year when we ended up with 298. Sellout is we can cram up to 350 if we have to.
Gotcha.
Rounds of 10. 300, 325 is probably preferable, but it's looking in good shape. 10 educational seminars, our awards ceremony, the cocktail reception on the Tuesday evening, the 18th. That's sponsored by TruckRight. We have our Hall of Fame awards for drivers, Rick Austin Memorial Dispatcher Award, sponsored by CPC-Private Fleet Safety Awards by Aviva, our YLG Education Bursaries, which we always look forward to, which are sponsored by 10 Street, and we'll be honoring our Driven to Lead graduates, sponsored by KRTS Transrep and 10 Street. So that's all the awards portions, and of course 10 educational seminars throughout the 2 days for our guests, variety of topics. We get safety and compliance topics. FMCSA and Transport Canada will be on site.
Nice.
Benchmarking survey, which we do every year. Legal updates, trying to remember them all. Next generation topics, recruitment and retention, all sorts of different topics. There'll be something there for everybody, I think.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's a very well attended event. The awards part is always the unique part, right? But the different awards you do between fleet graphics, driver, like all the different ones, and guys look forward to that. And
thanks for calling that out. I
excited.
forgot that one.
Yeah.
The graphics awards. This will actually be. I think I looked at it the other day. I believe this is the 39th straight year that 3M has sponsored the graphics awards. So
wild.
Yeah.
That's exciting. And it's neat because it's all different categories of vehicles too, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not just say, the best and the prettiest, but it's different categories. And so it's, different fleets can play, which is nice because that's definitely in the private fleet world. You've got, a large mix of fleets. It's not just all Class 8. So it's, and there's some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is cool.
And you're not supposed to say one's your favorite over the other, but my favorite is the Hall of Fame awards.
Fair.
Just because the drivers are the backbone of the industry, right? A lot of drivers just want to go out and do their job, and they really don't want to be on the stage or get the limelight. So it's nice to be able to get 4 drivers up there with, years and years, but in a lot of cases, 30 plus, 40 years of experience, millions of miles, no accidents, no incidents, and give them the recognition that they solely deserve.
Yeah, and it's good publicity, right? Like you said, usually when they're on the news, it's usually for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. So it's nice to validate and show, no, look, there's it's a core group, and they do it in the U.S. as well too, and you see it quite a bit. And companies will do the same thing; they'll recognize drivers. So it's a nice touch, but it's also from an industry point of view, it's a great recognition, to show what these guys have done in their commitment to the industry.
For sure.
And then, so on top of the conference, you got a whole bunch of other events going on throughout the year and different things. And one that I found is kind of interesting, and I don't know too much about, but you mentioned with the conference part is the Driven to Lead program. Maybe kind of walk us through what that program entails.
Yeah, so the Driven to Lead is an experiential learning program that really it's our young leaders group that thought it up years ago, and it's a way to get people together in experiential learning programs, and the basis of it is it's to teach you how to work better in a team environment, teach you how to not only lead better but work better towards becoming a leader in the future. And the program's really not meant just for up and coming young leaders. I took the first program years ago when we held it. Annette from our office went through it. We've had many senior leaders in there as well, because it also helps you learn how to interact with people working underneath you. Dale Carnegie is the facilitator of the program for us. So the last rendition of it was October of 2023.
Okay.
We had 11 people graduate from it. We will be honoring them at our conference, providing them with their certificates. We have another course running this fall, September 11th, 18th, and 25th, I believe. There's 6 modules that are going to be put on over 3 days. September 11th has to be in person at Dale Carnegie's office in Mississauga. And then the other 2 full days can be hybrid if people wish.
Gotcha.
Eagles Flight did it for us at the start, and then during COVID things changed, and they didn't have their office in Guelph anymore, so we looked for another provider, and Dale Carnegie, like I said, did it in October last year, and all the reviews we got back from the participants were phenomenal.
Excellent.
Everybody was happy. We weren't sure how the hybrid or virtual was going to work, to be honest. It's an experiential program, so first couple renditions of it, what people raved about was the interaction face-to-face.
Right.
And working on the different, they had games almost that they did that made you work together to get to an end goal. So we weren't sure how that was going to work virtually through Zoom, but surprisingly, the reviews from everybody said it was excellent. It wasn't what you would think of for a full day Zoom program. They keep you engaged and interactive. You're not just sitting there watching them teach. They pair you up with other people. There is homework to do beforehand. You team up to do projects together and learn how to work together. And it was, like I said, the reviews were great, and we're going to run it again.
Nice.
In September. Cost is actually cheaper than if you went to Dale Carnegie by yourself.
Oh, well, there you go.
To do the program, and that's because KRTS, Transrep, and 10 Street all sponsor the program.
Okay.
And the money they put towards sponsoring it brings the cost down. So it's a bit under $2,000, I believe, is what it costs for the full 3-day program, which if you go to register Dale Carnegie on your own, it's going to be higher than that.
Gotcha. No, that's good to know, right? It's a good program, and even the virtual part, I think, helps because it probably extends the net a bit. Because the in-person's, nothing beats in person. Like, it's always great. But, if the only one of the few positives that came out of, the COVID era is the ability to use, the different programs, the Teams and the Zooms to talk virtually.
Yeah, for sure.
Which then allows, maybe some other companies who are, because you guys are a Canadian entity,
Exactly.
So you can have someone that, hey, maybe, okay, I'll be out there for the first event because I have to be, but then I can be back in my office, in Alberta or, Ottawa or something like that, and still go through the program, which is nice.
Yeah, and we have had people come in from Quebec and the Maritimes before. We haven't had people come in from the West yet for it. But I think you're exactly right. What holds a lot of people back is, the cost of the program is relatively inexpensive when you compare it to what it's going to cost you to travel
to get here.
here and back 3 different times.
Yeah, exactly.
Book your hotels, do everything else. So it opens it up more for sure that only have to come in once and the other ones can be done virtually, and it makes it more accessible for sure, I think, from everybody from different regions of the country.
Definitely. So that's one thing to look out for. And then in October, you also have the NATME Certified Driver Training Program.
Yeah, so North American Transportation Management Institute. So they have 2 programs that we partner with KRTS on. One is the Certified Director of Safety and Certified Driver Trainer. So the Certified Driver Trainer is a 2-day course, in person, virtual if absolutely necessary, but in person is generally preferred. So we're running the Certified Driver Trainer again in October. It is a 2-day course in Mississauga, being taught by a guy by the name of Chris Harris. Safety Dog is usually.
We had him on the show.
Yeah, he usually teaches it for us. We ran one last year in October, and then we just finished a program in April, Certified Director of Safety, which is normally a 5-day course, 8 hours long. In the interest of travel and people's time, we put it into a 4-day course, 10 hours long.
Yep.
So same amount of program, but course runs Monday to Thursday, and then they travel home on the Friday.
Gotcha.
We did have quite a few people in from different regions of the country as well. And they run consecutively, so if people are coming in from out of province, They don't have to come in one day this week, one day next week.
Right.
It's 4 days in a row. Maximum cap on that is 15.
Okay.
You can put in a cast for it to be, I guess you would say, taught properly. So for the certified driver trainer course that we had last fall, we actually hit 14,
Wow.
15. So advertising for it will come out soon. I believe it's October 9th and 10th, but promotion will start coming out for it shortly. And the certified director of safety, we just had 11 for it, which is actually a pretty good number as well for a 4-day commitment. So I think self-explanatory. If you're going to be a director of safety, it's a North America-wide recognized training program to help you understand what you need to know as a director of safety, and it also teaches you how to teach, for
Right.
lack of a better term.
Yep.
Years ago, I come off the road as a driver and became a driver trainer, and I went through a program to learn how to teach, because it's one thing to know the knowledge. The other thing is how do I pass it along to the people that I need to pass it along to. So part of the program is making sure you have the knowledge, and part of it is also teaching you techniques of instruction and learning how to do it. So,
well, that's true, right? Because I mean, like you said, a lot of drivers, you look at the awards you give out, right? These are phenomenal drivers, with a ton of industry knowledge. But how do you take all that and and share it in a way that people can absorb it, right? Because it's how you learned or how you taught yourself may not always be the best way for someone else, right? So that's kind of a key thing, is being able to interpret what you know into a way people can absorb it. So it's a key part of the training for sure.
For sure. And the feedback we've got in the 2 courses we've ran so far have been great. So we appreciate the partnership with KRTS on that. And like I said, Chris Harris, the safety dog, he's taught both courses so far, and people rave about how good a job he does.
Nice. Yeah, I know he's good stuff. We had him on, and he's passionate about safety. I mean, it's
sure.
in his name, but
Yeah.
it's but he's definitely, his personality comes out. He makes it exciting. He makes it interesting. It's not dry, definitely. So I could see that in the course being another big thing to get through 4 days. It's a lot to take in, but knowing his personality and what he does with his programs and his shows, that he brings some life to it, which is great.
Well, and it just reminded me too, feedback I got from one of the participants who was in the course, the 4-day one, it's not only the information that you're taught on site. He said what he found really valuable was the interaction with all the other safety directors or individuals being taught the course, them talking about their different experiences at their company and what they did that worked and what they did that didn't work, and ideas and programs. So he said almost the thought sharing process of the people that they were sharing the class with was just as valuable as being taught how to be a safety director.
And that's a big piece, right? Getting back to in person is sharing those stories, and especially from that side of the industry. There's you go through so many different things that, especially if it's something major, you really don't want to go through it again. So if you can kind of share the experiences with other people, here's what happened, here's what we learned when we did the investigation, or here's how it could have been mitigated, or it could have been mitigated, but here's what we learned coming out of it from a training thing. You can share that. So from an industry point of view, just having all those people in the same room is huge, because that, on top of the training, that is valuable on itself.
For sure. And I think that's one of the, to promote ourselves a little bit, I think that's one of the things that really separates private fleets from for hire fleets in a lot of cases, is private fleets aren't competing against each other in transportation.
That's right.
An example I always use, Coke and Pepsi might be competing for shelf space, but the people that are coming to our conference and meetings aren't the people trying to sell Coke or Pepsi. They're the people directing the fleet.
Right.
And they're not competing for freight.
No, exactly.
So there's a more willing and open exchange of ideas and thoughts, I believe, between many private and for hires, because they're not competing with each other when it comes to being out on the highways.
Yeah.
So they're more willing to share best practices, what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. I think you see it at our conference a lot of time. A lot of the panels you have are our own fleet members up side by side talking about best practices and what works, and sharing it with everybody so everybody can improve.
Yeah, and that's the nice part, right? It's not a competitive environment from that point, so you can willingly share a little bit more comfortably, knowing that no one's going to gain a competitive advantage, because the product you're moving is not directly tied to the freight delivery part of it. So it's two separate kind of entities when it comes to the battle for shelf space, like you said. But from running the business, there's things to be learned from either side.
Yeah.
So, which is great. And then, so last time you were here, you were just about to hire someone out west, and since we've talked, that has come on board. Maybe you can fill us in on that role.
Yeah, so we hired a gentleman by the name of Marcel Pouliot. He's based out of Calgary, Alberta. over 40 years experience in the transportation industry. He worked at Trimac for over 30 years, about 34 years in various departments, safety and compliance, regulatory based. And he's now started his own company out there, I think about 3 years ago. And PMTC, we're a national association, but basically from a regulatory and compliance standpoint, we have an office in Milton, and basically we have one lobbyist, which was myself.
Right.
So we were involved with consultations right across the country. We have consulted with all the Western provinces on mandatory entry-level training. We've consulted with them on ELDs. So we have been involved nationally, but it makes it harder to get involved as much as you want in all the different regions of the country. And we've always had a goal of wanting to hire somebody to represent us in the West, Central, and then in the Maritimes.
Right.
Be honest, before you can do that, you have to have enough funds.
True.
To be able to do somebody to do it.
Good point.
And we were able to build up enough with the recognition or the support that we've gained from our growing members and support we've received from our conference. We were able to build up enough that we could finally look into that. So we went through an extensive search project. We did an interview process and nailed it down to one individual, which was Marcel, which started with us in November. So Marcel's goal with the PMTC is to kind of be boots on the ground, I guess you would say. So somebody lives out in the West, has his ear to the ground about what's going on in the West, build relationships with the members that we currently have out there and engage with them a bit more, and of course try to recruit new members and expand our presence in Western Canada, and become more involved in consulting with the governments in all 4 Western provinces to make sure that PMTC members' views and interests are heard. So he said he started in November. He's been doing a really good job, I believe. The momentum's gaining. His first event for us was a Western seminar that we held out there in November.
Nice.
That's where we announced his role. It was in Calgary. We actually had about 85 people in attendance.
Perfect.
Which is the biggest event we've ever had out there, and gained a lot of momentum. I think government was in the room and attended as well, so we were able to make those meetings. So yeah, it's pretty exciting times for us.
Nice.
And going well.
Excellent. And there's still some activity happening in June in Edmonton out west. You've got the CCMTA conference.
Yeah, so the Canadian Council of Motor Transport Administrators, which is the body that kind of brings the feds and all the provinces and jurisdictions together. They are the guardians of all the national safety codes that govern federally regulated carriers and that the provinces have signed MOUs on to try and implement across the country. Their annual conference moves around the country every year depending on where their board chair is.
Gotcha.
Their board chair this year is Lynn Vardy, ADM of Manitoba, of Alberta, forgive me, Lynn, of Alberta. So this year it's being held, their annual meeting's being held in Edmonton, June 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Gotcha.
So our role at that is, and I know I forwarded you a letter for your reference, but
Yes.
Our role at that meeting is always to make sure we present the emerging issues or issues that are still there that have been around for a while that are concerns to our members that we want to see the CCMTA and the jurisdictions address. And that's the perfect place to do it because you have all the government representatives from each jurisdiction in one place.
Perfect.
We are giving an opportunity. They have an educational portion on the Monday. I've been given the opportunity to be on a panel, and the topic will be National Safety Code Safety Fitness Certificates for carriers, which is a massive issue and one we've been pushing the governments to fix for a long time. And for people that aren't aware, you apply to the province that you are base plated out of, and you apply to them to get a national safety code, provincial safety rating. In Ontario, we call it a CVR.
Right.
The other jurisdictions, it's basically a provincial safety rating. You apply to them, have to go through the steps for the province that they're in, and then if they approve you, you're given a national safety code number. and then you can operate all across Canada if you're licensed properly, but your home, all the information is fed back to your home jurisdiction, and then they do the score and tabulate the safety rating
Right.
for your company, which in theory is fine. But the problem is not every province and jurisdiction scores the same.
Gotcha.
So I give you a safety rating from a fleet in Ontario, and it might say you're satisfactory, audited as an example, and your overall safety rating is 9.2%, which means you've accumulated 9.2% of the points you're allowed to accumulate.
Gotcha.
I'll run one from Alberta and give it to you, and it'll tell you your R factor rating is 0.004. How does somebody compare the two?
Right. Fair.
And we have an MOU that says we're supposed to run it similar, but they're not the same when you're trying to compare it. So that's one issue. Another issue is a carrier should only be able to have one.
Right.
And you can get more than one in Canada. Like in the U.S., if you're a federally regulated carrier, you get a federal safety rating. There's a website that you go to. They track all your scores. All the jurisdictions feed it back to a central reporting database, and it's looked after by one authority, and you get one score.
Right.
I have a fleet in Alberta. I have a fleet in Ontario. I have a fleet in BC. You played it in Alberta, you apply for a provincial safety rating from them, you get one back from them. You do the same in Ontario, now you have one from them. You do the same from Quebec. Now I got 3 NSC numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, so it creates a few issues. One, I'm a shipper. I want to make sure that you have a good safety rating, so I ask to see it. Well, if I don't tell you I have 3 different ones,
Send the best one. Yeah.
I'm only going to send you one.
Yeah.
Another issue, we saw it in BC with a company called Cohan Carriers. BC has a new rule. If you wipe out a bridge, they suspend your operating authority immediately.
Fair.
They suspended their authority. Next day, there was still trucks running in there because they also have a fleet in Alberta, and they can't suspend the Alberta fleet. So some carriers will open up numerous fleets to kind of skirt from safety rules or wash their safety rating.
Right.
So you get shut down on one, they just transfer the trucks over to the other one. But the way it should occur in our members' views, in our board's view, I have no issue if you have, many private fleets do, if you have a fleet in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, Quebec, because a lot of private fleets run regionally.
Right.
They might have a distribution warehouse in Alberta that covers Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba.
Yeah,
And
never
they have
leaves.
another one in BC, another one in Ontario, another one out east. So it might be easier for you to license those vehicles in each region. But they should all be tied together to one national safety code number.
Right.
And then it should all be fed into one central reporting system. So it's all the same score if you're federally regulated.
Yeah.
We don't have a national reporting system. It's up to each jurisdiction to do it. And it creates massive issues. If you have unsafe carriers, they just wash themselves, move to another jurisdiction, like I said. Some of them will actually license, they might be totally based in Ontario, as an example, and license their entire fleet out of New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, even though they never touch any ground out there.
Right.
Insurance is cheaper. Might be easier to get different programs through. This is something that has to be fixed, and the way to fix it is we need a central reporting system, and a federally regulated carrier gets one national safety code system.
Yeah.
And they're all scored the same. So that's one of the issues we'll be discussing on the panel.
Perfect.
And then the next day, we've been given a 15-minute opportunity to present to the board of directors on a bunch of our emerging issues, which, as always, there's lots of things going on. So we
Yes.
have we'll have trouble getting it all in 15 minutes, but we provide with them ahead of time our views and have conversations with them throughout the year.
Perfect. Yeah, so a lot to cover, and like I said, at least you got the right audience for it. Right
Yeah.
On June 4th, when you're speaking, you've got all the right people in the room. So hopefully, it's well received and kind of gets the ball rolling. So it's good. And I guess coming up even quicker, you've got some fun time. We've got a golf tournament coming.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks now, I guess. May 28th is our spring golf tournament in Carlisle, Ontario, which is not too far from the Milton area.
Right.
We have 24 spots left as I speak to you today. 144 is a sellout. We're at 120.
That's awesome.
Two hole sponsorships available if anybody's interested. It's always a fun day. It includes full buffet breakfast, 18 holes of golf, cart, free beverages on the course if you want to drink Molson Canadian or Coors, because they're the one that donate the
Nice.
the beer for on the course. Buffet supper at the end. Everybody gets a registration prize and prizes for the winners. And we also do a charity putting contest where 50% of the funds raised goes to the Children's Wish Foundation.
Excellent.
And 50% go to our Young Leaders Group to support their programs. So.
Nice. That should be a good day.
So yeah, if you're interested, get a hold of our office. Like I said, we got 24 spots left.
Excellent. And then I guess the last thing on the calendar is you've got a Western seminar planned in October.
Yeah, early initial stages of it, but October 16th is our planned date. We will be in Calgary again. Marcel is working diligently at getting our speakers and topics together. We are going to expand it a bit this year. In other years, it's only been half a day basically. We started out with the breakfast, education, ended at noon, and had lunch. This year we're going to make it a full day. And we're going to be at SAIT. It's called Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. They're kind of a trade school out there.
Okay.
They have a campus in Calgary, and they've offered up their space, so we're gonna host it at their facility.
Nice.
So watch for details to come out. The details will probably come out after our conference in July, but people want to bookmark that date. It'll be October 16th back in Calgary this year.
Excellent. Well, it's a lot to catch up on. I'm glad you're able to come back in and get us up to date, and people can go to the conference and the other events, and keep engaged and keep tuned into what you guys are working on. So thanks for doing that.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Hey, well, that concludes this episode. We want to thank Mike again for joining us. To catch past episodes, go to transportationexchangepodcast.ca. And until next time, thanks for listening.